Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Ceresco back again after a long break to read some horror stories to you guys. These are a few horror stories written by actually someone who calls himself Horror Stories. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and as usual, use the links in the description below to show love to the author. Like, comment, and subscribe. Story 1. So this one is one of the many stories my mother passed down to my siblings and I when we were very young. I'm gonna say I was about 9-10 years old, and they took place in Central America, El Salvador to be precise. My grandma one day was supposed to meet up with a friend to go to another friend's wake. Back then, people would stay all night mourning at the wake with the deceased. My grandma was waiting for her friend where they had agreed to meet, which happened to be near a little river. She sees this woman from far away, all in white, and my grandma says it looked just like her friend. Her name was Mary. So she starts following this woman, calling out for her, thinking it's her friend. She followed her by the river and then kept calling out for her, but there was no answer. It starts getting creepy when this woman is going towards these trees, away and away, and my grandmother started catching up, but as she was getting closer to her, she started to feel what she says were her shoulders feeling big and her head felt big, and she couldn't move anymore. She was close enough to see this woman's face that was covered by a veil, and she said the woman's face was a skull. My grandma somehow came out of her shock and ran as fast as she could. She says she felt as if she was running slow and wasn't getting away fast enough. These stories always gave me the chills, but have always been fascinating. She states it was the Llorona, or the weeping woman, because she was walking by the river. They passed it and headed towards some trees. This happened to me when I was about 11 years old. It was the 90s. I had lived my whole life in El Paso, Texas. The culture was rich in folklore and religious beliefs. Many Hispanic families have stories of the paranormal. One legend popular is the legend of the Weeping Woman, aka La Llorona. The legend of La Llorona, Spanish for Weeping Woman, has been part of Hispanic culture in the Southwest since the days of the conquistadores. The tall, thin spirit is said to be blessed with natural beauty and long, flowing black hair. Wearing a white gown, she roams the rivers and creeks, wailing into the night and searching for children to drag, screaming to a watery grave. No one really knows when the legend of La Llorona began, or from where it originated. Although the tales vary from source to source, the one common thread is that she is the spirit of a doomed mother who drowned her children and now spends eternity searching for them in rivers and lakes. One night, it was just like any other night. I lived in a trailer with my mom and dad. My youngest brother was staying with my aunt this night. I fell asleep watching Jay Leno as usual, and when I woke up, I was on the sofa in my living room. The time was 4 a.m., which illuminated from the stove in the kitchen. Television was off, and normally I had a light on, but this time it was pitch black. I woke up and I heard a horrible screaming that was coming from afar in the distance. The screaming was coming from a ditch that was a few feet away from my home. I heard it and I thought I was just hearing things. I even asked myself, am I dreaming? Then I started to hear the animals outside howling and whimpering. These animals I speak of are cats and dogs. As the screaming got closer, the animals continued to cry. The screaming was something I have never experienced ever before. It sounded like I was in a big hallway and a woman was screaming her guts down the hallway. Then, in all the screaming, I started to make out words. These words being said by whoever this was at 4 a.m. screaming their guts out shocked me. The woman said, "Ay, mis hijos." In a huge panic, I quickly got up from the sofa and ran to the kitchen, which was right next to where I sleep. I turned the closet light and looked around. The screaming didn't stop. In fact, the screaming only got louder and closer. I questioned my sanity at that moment. Was I going crazy or hearing things? Then I thought to myself, this is real and the animals are responding to it in a negative way. So I did what any other 11-year-old boy would do in a moment like this. I ran to my mom and dad's room. I reached for my mom and shook her awake wildly. She woke up slowly, and to my amazement, the screaming faded away as she awoke. I thought to myself, what the heck is going on? Mom, did you hear that screaming and crying lady? No, honey. Go back to sleep. Probably just your imagination. No, this is real. Please, listen. Don't you hear her? Look, you are dreaming, so just go back to sleep. It's gonna be okay. By then, the screaming had faded long away, like if whoever was screaming knew that an adult is awake. I was terrified as I returned to the living room and quickly turned on the television, as I left most of the lights on as well. I didn't go back to sleep until the sun came up. I couldn't believe what I had heard and witnessed. I was treated like a crazy person whenever I told this story. It got so bad that I kept my experience to myself. To this day, I don't care what people think of my experience. I know what I heard. A couple of years later, it happened to me again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, the end of our story.